We should probably talk about the main story of the week, shouldn't we?
You know,
all right. What's going on? Why don't you tell us about this one?
Okay, let's talk about it.
Hit me.
So, around the 70s, 1970s, there was this young fashion designer named Saint Laurent.
Right.
He started a brand that was primarily targeted towards the young, hip, well-to-do.
I think maybe we should go forward a little bit.
Okay,
it is 8:41.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, recently, the brand known as Saint Laurent Paris, or I guess they go as YSL again, started selling these vintage and authentic vintage Nirvana t-shirts. Mm-hmm. So these are indeed t-shirts that were either directly sold by Nirvana, like a part of their tour, or these are t-shirts. It looks like these are t-shirts that are from the 90s, connected to the scene, that have some degree of authenticity.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's one that's like a rest in peace Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there. So these are true blue, vintage rock and roll t-shirts from one of the most rocking bands out there. So, it's a collect. These are collector's items. Saint Laurent is a luxury brand, and they're selling them for around $5,000, and we're here to tell you why that's good.
Yeah, listen,
that's
you're
good.
Gonna find
so disregard everything I said earlier. Disregard that. That is not my actual stance.
Right.
I am a big proponent of like companies and money and like
we love money. So let's just set the stage, okay? Here's the popular sentiment. Kurt rolling in his grave over this nonsense. Kurt would have definitely hated $4,000 shirts. Exactly what Kurt would have despised. Rolling in his grave, would despise this concept, could not be more distant. Okay, so
I agree. I can agree with that. But also Kurt Cobain was kind of like, I think he would be kind of cringe today. Like he was like so anti, like even like musicians, like Axl Rose apparently wanted to be like, oh, I love your music, I like you, we're both musicians. Like he was so like he was really kind of too cringe a little bit, but
a little bit. If I can, I remember my parents. They liked Nirvana. They were like around at that time in like the punk music scene, but they thought that he was like a poser. Like they thought he was just this kind of like emo loser who was like putting on airs of being depressed and like, sad boy. So they were like, I remember them telling me we were very surprised when he killed himself because we thought it was all just an act and we thought it was cringe,
And I am kind of being a little extra. I think that Nirvana and Kurt Cobain were pretty cool. But let's get into this. We're here because we realize that we need to be more controversial. So we're here to argue why this is a good thing.
I think there are legitimate arguments. We're not just putting these on. These are arguments that we can stand by. We understand the arguments against, but there are legitimate arguments for that I want to go through. So should I throw one out? You want to go back and forth?
Throw.
Okay.
Hit me.
So here's the first thing. These are being sold at fair market prices. Fair, obviously, being up for interpretation, but YSL are not marking these up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Nirvana Incesticide shirt, right? If we go look at on Grailed, $10,000.
Mamma mia!
For $2,800. The prices aren't completely out of whack. If these weren't being sold by Saint Laurent, some vintage store guy would be finding these at the thrift store and selling them at their vintage shop for pretty much the same prices.
Silver League, yeah.
Silver League and Justin Reed. Yeah.
That's one point. Here's another point for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, luxury brands, you are buying into a vibe fundamentally. and you're not the shirt itself. These shirts, these pants, they don't cost thousands of dollars. You're spending thousands of dollars for a vibe. There is something completely rational. Cold one. There's something completely rational and I think great about a luxury brand deciding to expand outward and include pieces that are both authentic from the time and in a sense kind of a collaging of the things that inspire them and the things that kind of they want to distinguish or identify with.
Yeah.
You know, these t-shirts already existed. They're not producing more things to make Florida's water hotter. They are taking something that existed and they arbitrage. They're saying, "Hey, would you like to buy this because we have curated it?"
So let me piggyback on that, because I think another point in this idea's favor is the fact. Think about some other luxury brands like Gucci, even Givenchy, who we've talked about a couple times in this episode. Both of those brands have done Disney collaborations in recent years, and they also charge thousands of dollars for these Disney pieces. And it is new product churn to go out to the masses, brand new, you know, killing the earth pieces that are being made they're disposable for all intents and purposes. For this drop, Saint Laurent has not created a single new thing into being, and yet they're evoking the same vibes that they're looking to, that these brands were looking to do with Disney, but they're doing it in a sustainable way, even if it's one that people don't like because of the price point or how they think it's at odds with the Nirvana legacy or whatever.
Guys, Saint Laurent is green. They're eco-friendly.
They're going to be able to put this on their social responsibility page.
Their social justice warrior page.
Right.
Here's another point in favor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you spend $1,000 on a T-shirt or whatever.
Okay.
One of them is from Gucci and it is utterly meaningless. Mm-hmm. Another one you spent that money at Saint Laurent and you very truly have a authentic Nirvana T-shirt from the 90s. I would rather own that. I would rather
straight up. It's kind of as simple as that, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. At least you would say, "Oh yeah, this is like a real Nirvana T-shirt." It was expensive, but ever since I started that tech startup and I loved the band in the 90s, and now I can have a piece of it. Would Kurt Cobain be pissed off about this? Yes, but he was so pissed off that he killed himself. So, you know, you can only be so like grunge for so long. It's like he still sold tickets.
Anybody making that argument, I understand it, but you are a fucking hypocrite, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. Think how hyped were people on them using that Nirvana song in the Batman, the Robert Pattinson big studio Warner Brothers movie. It made the movie it went viral as a sound on TikTok. It's like, this is perfect. It's the perfect mood, the perfect vibe.
How does that song go again? Yeah.
Something in the way.
That movie was vibes, so.
And that's what we're getting at. Like, Kurt would have hated both of these things, but both that movie and Saint Laurent are just trying to bring vibes to what they're putting out into the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to do drips like in that movie. I think that I mean, honestly, you know, I think that the worst part about this is that the people who are buying these shirts are likely not punk rockers. You know, they're not Tina is a punk rocker. They're not. Yeah. They are probably people who are wealthy. I would like to imagine that it's somebody who grew up with this music and has become affluent. But
can I just say though, and this is like where you get into this weird situation because you can follow this rabbit hole down anywhere. It's kind of like how you can't buy anything these days completely ethically. But where were these people getting all up in arms when people are spending like $3,000 for an archival Joy Division Raph Simmons piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then what's his face killed himself because of
straight
money.
Up, straight the fuck up.
Yeah, they
at least buy a vintage Smith shirt because Morrissey is still around and kicking, and he's hanging out with British nationalists. Okay, like a real man.
Meat is murder.
Right. He's a vegetarian fascist, as it should be.
What is going on in his brain? You know, he wants to get hit by a double-decker bus, or maybe I want him
to. So I kind of want to close with one criticism of this. I will give credence here, and I think this is a criticism that you're not going to hear from other people. The wrong Saint Laurent designer put these out.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you think about that? What can you?
That was my idea. That was my idea.
Translate this for me.
All right, I'll translate. I mean, I think Eddie Salmon. This is like so his vibe. This would be something he would do, to be like arrogant, to really stick it to people, to sell things for way more money than they're worth.
Yeah.
Those are things that he loves to do. And then if somebody came up and was like, "This is inauthentic. You don't know about rock and roll," Eddie Salmon would be, "Actually, I am." He'd say, "I am a respected photographer. I am totally in the indie rock scene. I do all this photography. I am friends with all these rock and roll artists. How dare you say that I am not rock and roll? I am rock and roll luxury."
He's like, "Listen, I helped revive rock and roll with the rock and roll revival with the skinny black tie to your own looks, okay?"
Yeah. He's like, "I made what's his face lose 50 pounds. Karl Lagerfeld."
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's like a fashion lore, is that
I like it.
When Eddie took over Dior Homme and he started selling skinny suits, Karl Lagerfeld lost a bunch of weight, and he said that he did it to fit in the Dior suits. So
I like it. Listen,
it
feels like a very Eddie thing to do, to make somebody be like, "You know what would be good for you? Being skinnier." Because skinny is just better. That's the Eddie way.
It's fun. Skinny is fundamentally better,
right,
than anything else.
Right.
So I mean, in conclusion, guys, anybody who thinks that these Saint Laurent shirts are bad are wrong, because
straight up wrong.
There is nothing bad about this. There is nothing bad about selling an old T-shirt for $5,000.
Damn right. And it's the American dream, you guys.
You know what? Let's call up Dave. Let's get Dave Grohl on the horn and ask him what he thinks. You know, right?
Hit me.
We can ask him.
Please.
What would you guys do?
I've been looking for something that changed for nothing. I'm been in a vibe, but I'm out. Another time when I think I go.
Or here's one. Love us, love you. You know that one song?
Yeah, that one. I know that one.
Yeah.
Listen,
guys, everybody, you know what would you do? And maybe even Killian doesn't know it. I'm like, yeah, let's ask Dave Grohl. Third screen opens. It's actually Dave Grohl. What would you guys do? And you would all five of you would be like, holy shit.
Whoa.
What a waste.
Whoa.
What a waste. I'm joking. And I want to say this, guys. I love all of you. I'm glad you're feeling. I really do. All the haters and the lovers. And
listen, I hope that Vinayak Roy never leaves us.
I really do.
I give me so much joy.
I mean that 100%. I'm not being
for real. Never leave us.
Never leave.
As you noted, if you left, we would have 9 viewers instead of 10. So please never leave.
I gotta, it's simple math. Businesses do math. We do math.
So Blank says, I wonder how the quality is, because if it were in silk, the T-shirts would be crazy. I don't think, listen, back then, I don't think they knew how to make a T-shirt out of silk. The technology just wasn't there yet, my friend.
Actually, the thing is, those are single stitch. They were like double, triple weave, and that's why in the '90s, t-shirts were better if they used less material. It's better if there's less stitching.
So, can I give a pet peeve of mine?
What?
All these brands, like modern brands, when they put out like a vintage tee, like they instead of being like, oh, it's lightweight or jersey or whatever, they're like, this is our vintage boxy tee. It's always like heavy and stiff as shit. That's what vintage t-shirt style means to these people. And
Yeah.
it's the worst.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it, and I know this thought has been had a million times, and it's just honestly just some stupid, pathetic loser thing that I think in my head.
Okay.
I really would like to, like, if I don't know, I would like to just experiment with making T-shirts, like producing T-shirts today that are more authentically vintage. And I know that there are brands that try to do that, but I feel like it's something that isn't really hit on the nail on the head. I think it's something that I want. I want to make T-shirts and like try all the enzyme washes and like, I don't know. We'll take it offline, but I think that there's a market for it. Somebody should try to do it better.
I'll say one thing that I always found to be interesting. I have one Vivian Westwood T-shirt that is maybe one of the most unique and weirdly constructed T-shirts I've ever owned in a good way. Like, I feel like so many of these brands, they're getting their stuff produced, their streetwear type stuff produced at the same like handful of factories, and it's legitimately refreshing to see someone who's like, oh, this has like different lengths to the front and back, and it's got these split sides, and instead of like these double stitch things, like every seam is just surged. It's weird and cool, and I like it.
I think I know what you're talking about, at least based on like other Vivian Westwood tops. I would love for you to pull it out, but I'm sure it's not.
It is not close by. Yeah.
I guess in conclusion, guys, here's the brass tacks.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like upset about Saint Laurent selling a $5,000 old T-shirt, I don't think that is any. It is. I think that it is honestly very close to the ethics or unethical nature of the entire brand. They just sell a fantasy of being rock and roll, but those people, it's like that's not it.
Right.
I don't know. It's maybe we're being too somber.
No, I don't think. Like, so, Double Slash says, I feel the same way about this that I do about every luxury company using Jean-Michel Basquiat designs, shaking my head. And I think that's why I prefer this, because instead of churning out new Basquiat or Keith Haring licensed stuff to feed the churn of the fashion machine, they're just curating some stuff that already exists. You don't have to like it, but I find it hard to hate on,
Yeah. I mean, I think that the knee-jerk reaction is to say, Kurt Cobain would have hated this. It's like, I'm sure Kurt Cobain hated what was happening while he was alive.
Right.
So imagine all of the commercialism. Like, my entire life, you could walk into a Walmart and buy a Nirvana T-shirt. I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain would be upset about that. He was not happy.
When Republicans put out policies that are just terrible for poor people and people of color, and then people are like, hey, I don't think Jesus would really like this. Has that argument ever moved a single one of them?
How about this? It seems like the vast majority of Christians. Why isn't it that like Jesus was basically a refugee who was just about like loving everybody and like cleaning the feet of the poor? Nobody adopts that. Nobody adopts just the core things he was talking about.
Why can't I just walk into a church right now and hand him my smelly, dirty feet and be like, clean me, daddy?
I mean, I genuinely feel like that is actually something that you should be able to do. I don't know. I think maybe it depends on where you go, and maybe if you go to like if you're in Italy and you go to like a Catholic church and there's like an old priest and you're like, "Scusi," and then they'll be like, "Yes, like the Christ," because that's what Christ did.
Listen, my feet are the body of Christ. So suck on these toes, bitch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Take this, all of you, and suck on it. These are my toes. The toes of the new and everlasting covenant.